Hello, Tech Pros, episode 170. Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Alex Barker. Happy Tuesday, Alex.
Hey, happy Tuesday right back at you, buddy.
Are you prepared to be productive?
I think, prepared?
Yeah.
You mean I had to plan to do this?
Well,
yeah. Let's get started.
Yeah, you either had to plan to be productive or you're just naturally so productive that just like in your DNA and it's just going to seep out all over the microphone right here.
I don't think I was born this way. So
Cool.
Let's chat about it.
Awesome. I want to hear it. Alex Barker is a coach for high achievers and mastermind creator for entrepreneurs. He's a big action taker just like his clients. He built 3 businesses in 3 years. Check this out. He built 3 businesses in 3 years, paid off his house in less than 3 years, and has coached over 50 people to build lifestyle businesses. He podcasts on the 66-day experiment where he experiments on his life and business, like creating a business in 66 days, reading a book a day, and facing daily rejection. His mission is to help men and women find a disciplined approach to success in life and business. Alex, that sounds like so much productivity. Like that's like I read like 4 people's bios and scrunched them all together and called it Alex Barker. That's crazy.
It wasn't always that way.
It wasn't
always that way. I was pretty unproductive. In fact, I still can be unproductive at times.
Well, perfect. Dude, usually I joke around about the, hey, so tell me about your big action taker, or tell me about your paying off your house in 3 years, and just kind of chit-chat and get it going. But let's be very productive on this podcast and jump right into it. So the same question, Alex, that I ask everybody, which you have already alluded to, is tell me about that time in your life when you were completely unproductive and you were not building 3 businesses in 3 years, or paying off your house in less than 3 years, or coaching 50 people and building lifestyle businesses, or podcasting 66 days and all this other stuff. Tell me about the time that we can relate to when you were getting nothing done and you felt like crap, because that's where a lot of us are at right now today.
Well, that sucks. I hope you don't feel like crap forever.
Well, at the end of this podcast, we'll be like, yeah, I'm going to be just like that Alex guy because I've learned so much.
Well, I hope I can share some great stuff. I'll share some things that have really changed my life.
Cool.
About 3 years ago, late to 2013, I was stuck. I had been working on building a business for over a year. I was trying to build things online. I was writing books. I was creating courses. I was creating websites. I was doing a little bit of coaching, and I just wasn't getting ahead. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I was also hurting my family at the same time. We had one of our children was born at that time. Born. She was 2 almost at that time. And I remember having an argument with my wife about the time I was spending working on this, at the time, side business. I had a daytime job. I'm a pharmacist. And what I was doing is I was coming home, eating dinner, and then going straight to the computer and, quote, working, end quote.
Yep.
And I remember arguing and saying, I need at least 2 nights a week. I need at least 2 nights, but I want 3. And we argued a lot about this because I was taking time away, precious time that I'll never get back, unfortunately, with my daughter and my wife on this thing that really wasn't bringing me a whole lot. And I was so frustrated. I was so angry that I was spending time, and it wasn't even very productive time, on something that wasn't really generating the results that I had desperately wanted. Mm-hmm. That was probably the most unproductive time, unless you think about all of grad school and then
right.
I think college.
Yeah.
Yeah, college is where probably I was the most unproductive, but I wasn't really frustrated about it.
Yeah. I completely relate. So full transparency, I do not have a degree. I have 1 year of quote unquote schooling, where I was at Oklahoma State University for 1 year. I enrolled in about 30 hours of classes. And first semester, I showed up to class, I think 3 times. And second semester, I didn't even bother. But yeah, so from a productivity standpoint, I was having fun. I was enjoying life, I was breathing fresh air by 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. But yeah, I feel you there. Okay, so tell us about the rest of this stuff. Okay, so you had a day job. You're a pharmacist. You're working your quote unquote 9 to 5 or 60 hours or whatever it was at your job. And then you're coming home and you're like, okay, I want to build this business. I want to kick this thing off the ground and I want to be productive at it, right? I want to invest these hours now so that I can cash out of my 9 to 5 job sooner or later, right? And it's a lot of work. It was a lot of work, and it was taking you away from your family. You and your wife were having some disagreements about it. What happened?
Oh, well, immediately after that, I think we had just one giant fight. I remember sitting by myself in my office. We had just bought this new home, and I remember thinking to myself, what am I doing? And how can I change? And after talking with my wife and talking with my peers, those who were like at the same level as me wanting to start a business, I basically said, if I want to be the kind of man that I think I need to be, if I want to be the kind of husband and father that I should be, then I need to do something. I can't keep doing this. And so I changed. I woke up early. I woke up early. And I hated it at first, and now it's second nature. In the beginning, it was very difficult, but I used every trick of the book. I used rewards to get me out of bed. I had my phone 15 feet away from my bed, so I had to get up. I made my favorite thing in the morning, which is coffee brewed right away. I did some things that I love doing, just in general, right away in the morning to get me up, to wake me up so I can work on the most important things that I needed to get done. That one simple life hack, I wouldn't say is directly responsible, but is responsible for a lot of the change that I've made. If I would have kept working in the evenings, I wouldn't be as productive. My mind wouldn't be as focused. I wouldn't have accomplished as much, and I wouldn't be here talking to you, Chad.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I can almost kind of relate to that, except for the fact that my rewards that I love to reward myself with, if I can ever treat myself, is actually with a nap, right? And so that would probably be counterproductive in my case if I got up early just to be like, yeah, nailed it, and then go back to bed and take like a 2-hour nap. So I'm glad that that's worked for you. So you got up early, you started making these changes, like these habits of, okay, if I can reward myself, if I can get out of bed, if I can start the day earlier, then I can be more productive. Was that because you wanted to spend the nights and evenings with a family and have that dedicated to family time? Or do you feel like you were more productive in the morning, but like working on your business, you were getting more stuff done in the morning hours rather than the evening hours?
Well, both.
Okay.
Both, man. I mean, I used to think I was a night owl. I mean, I remember staying up until 3 a.m. studying chemotherapeutic drugs for pharmacology. And I just thought, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And as I reflect on it, I remember watching a lot of The Office during my late night study hours. And now as I even think about, the difference between how productive I am at nighttime versus the daytime, the morning, it's a world of difference. And now I spend that time every night. I come home, I turn off my phone. I don't think about business unless there's some special call or something, but I'm there with my family, and it's wonderful. It's a complete change, world of difference.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Congratulations, man. Because I'm a family man too. I love my family, and I can relate to a lot of this talk because For 15 years, I did the side hustle thing and was never productive at it, like never successful at it. I collected so many domain names. I wrote so many lines of code that never saw quote unquote production, never saw a customer, never saw the light of day. Built websites and mobile apps that I tinkered around on, and just never got anything completed. I was not a completionist, and until really well, you know my story. You guys know my story. I'm not going to get into that. But until Hello Tech Pros, I just kind of tinkered around with stuff, but I never took it seriously. So in this aspect, you took it seriously when you got up in the morning and you were like, okay, well, I'm going to dedicate family time in the evening, and then I'm going to focus on my side hustle stuff in the morning. And that really started making a difference. What was the first major impacts, like the major things that you saw, both in your family and in your work life?
Well, the major difference, I would say, is I started to focus on the one thing that was difficult. There's a common saying that you need to slay your dragons in the morning. So whatever that most difficult thing is, the thing that takes the most brain capacity or the most painful thing to do, the least enjoyable thing, if that's what it is, you do it right away. Because in the morning, that's when you have the greatest willpower. There's this thing called decision fatigue. Basically, it's pretty simple. If you make decisions all day, as the day goes on, your ability, your willpower to make decisions decreases over time. This is why people like President Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates wear the same thing every day. They don't want to have to think about those things. Because if they do, it decreases their brain power.
Right.
They don't want to have to think about it. And in the same way, if you can focus on the things that are really important to you, maybe it's working on getting that extra promotion, or it's working on a side hustle. If that's the case, then work on it in the morning when you are awake, ready to take on the day.
Right. So get up, work on your toughest things, and then decide what kind of socks am I going to wear today.
Yeah, I usually lay it out a week in advance.
Yeah, I have nothing to say there, because my wife picks out my clothes. She does all the shopping, and I just grab the thing that's on the right in the closet, and then I go from there. No,
wow,
that's actually, I'll tell you what, I pick the thing that's furthest on the left that's the most comfortable, because that is what has been hanging in the closet for the longest. But I'm going to skip over all the uncomfortable shirts unless it's like I have to go to some fancy thing, I have to get up and put on grown man clothes. Then I'll reach way far to the left, but otherwise I'll reach the farthest to the left of the comfy clothes and grab, it's swamp life down here in Florida. So it's flip-flops, t-shirt, and shorts is pretty formal, because you're wearing a shirt, and that's pretty formal down here in Florida. So yeah, furthest thing to the left, and then the things that come out of the dryer, the things that come out of whatever, when it's freshly laundered, then they go on the right, and it's just like a queue. So I feel you. All right, so we made our easy choices, or make our easy choices easier, and now we're going to focus on the one thing that's the hardest. So, in your case, what was the hardest thing for you? What was your dragon that you had to slay in the morning that if you waited until, say, 8:30, 10 o'clock at night, dude, it's not going to happen. It's not going to get done.
I would at that time, maybe it was website stuff for me. I really do not enjoy website stuff. I don't like dealing with WordPress. I'm proficient. I know how to handle it, but it's just it doesn't turn my wheels. It's boring. Almost anything technical. Sorry. Anything technical, and my eyes kind of glaze over. Sorry, it's just not my thing.
No, that's totally fine, because you know what? There's probably people listening to this call that are like, "Oh my gosh, WordPress? That's not technology. That's like a that's so easy. You're not coding anything yourself by hand. That's not technology. You're just pushing buttons, man. What do you got to gripe about?"
Yeah.
And there's other
people to do that for me.
Exactly, right? Exactly. We can outsource that to these audience members who want to do that kind of stuff. And other people are like, dude, I feel you. The CSS customizations in WordPress just makes me want to no. It just makes me want to know. I don't want to do any of this online stuff. Okay, so for you, it is you don't want to do technical things. That is your dragon, or at the time, 3 years ago, that was your dragon. You're like, okay, that means I need to get up. I need to start doing, if there's any WordPress changes that I need to make today, I'm going to get it done now. Like first thing in the morning before the kids get up, like have my cup of coffee and then log into WordPress and start tinkering around and doing your design or doing your blog entries or whatever you're doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that was your toughest thing. So then what were the results of that? Like, what were the results of this new productivity gain that you were getting up in the morning, you were forcing yourself to change your time habits and then forcing yourself to actually make those hard decisions and work on the hardest things first? What happened?
Well, I'd say in the beginning, it wasn't, the effect wasn't really seen, if I'm truthful with you. And this is so common for anyone who starts a business on the side or starts exercising or tries to start a diet, right? In the beginning, starting something new is almost, you'll never see an effect on it. But over time, what takes into place is the compound effect, which is pretty simple, and is that daily action over time will yield big results. Gary Keller talks about this in his book, The One Thing, this idea that if you knock over a domino, that domino has the power behind it to knock over another domino that is 50% larger. And so if you repeat that process over and over and over again, increasing the size of the dominoes, a domino that is 2 inches over time can knock over a domino that's almost to, the moon. That's the power of doing just one thing. For me, in the beginning, it was just that simple act, that habit made me more focused on the work at hand. Now, at the time, probably about the same time that I started working in the morning is when I really started my first company, which was a media company, content creation, that sort of thing. And if I didn't have that habit of waking up early, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't own my house. So I'm very indebted to that.
That's awesome. So you focused on this one thing. You focused on the things that you were doing, and over time, like at the beginning, you saw no results, but over time, it started building bigger and bigger and bigger, and your business suddenly, I'm assuming it hit this kind of snowball effect, right? Where you have just a few flakes and you're tie them together, but pretty soon you got something that's kind of has a mind of its own, a steam of its own, right? And it's moving and it's like making revenue and it's like starting to pay bills and so forth.
Eventually. Yeah. That is how it kind of went. I mean, in the beginning for any kind of side hustle, it's almost depressing. Because you think, wow, why am I not? Everyone else is getting these amazing results. I'm hearing all these podcast interviews, and everyone's just, oh, the pie's in the sky. You can do it. Just dreaming. Oh yeah, buy my course, and you'll get my magic sauce. Yeah. And you get frustrated because it's like, what am I doing differently? What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And over time, luckily, things started to really change. I achieved one really great client with my company, and I've been with them since. And I've been giving them great work, and it's been doing amazing things for their business, and it just blew up from there. That one gig alone, I mean, is really kind of what brought me to where I am today. And it's led to the other businesses that I own, the other two that I created, and I'm like I said, indebted to those things. And well, here I am.
Okay, so tell us about that first business that you created, right? So what kinds of things were you serving that customer? Like what kinds of things were you selling and producing for that customer? And then how did that relationship? Well, I'll go there in a minute. So first.
Cool.
Yeah, because sometimes I ask like 50 questions and I don't know when to shut up. So let's take the first one first.
And the first one is to talk about.
Yeah, like what were you doing? Like, okay, let's get specific on the types of things that Alex Barker was doing for big client number one when you landed big client number one.
Sure. Really simple. I created content. I wrote articles.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I did. I just sold the written things that I was creating. It was really nice. And that one client led to other clients. The referrals grew. Eventually, I said, I can't keep writing. Writing is actually not a really great skill of mine. It takes a lot of energy and mental forethought and time for me to write. And so I started hiring ghostwriters. And then I hired a VA in the Philippines to manage the whole process. And now the business is at a point where I push forth some ideas. I tell people, I like this. Let's do more of that. Let's do more of that. And they fulfill it. I put my stamp of approval, send it out. Bada bing, bada boom. I've always wanted to say that in a podcast.
Nailed it. You have it. You have done it. So take out that bucket list that you've got somewhere, whether it's digital or old school pen and paper, and you'll be like, check.
It is done. Yeah.
Bada
So
bing, bada boom.
that was pretty much it. It grew into something really amazing that I just never would have expected. And the funny thing is I fell in love with this idea of starting a side hustle business. And before I created this pharmacy media company, because it was related to healthcare, the things that I was writing, I was really against this idea of accepting who I was. I thought in order to have any kind of side hustle, I can't do anything pharmacy related. I almost grew to think that the last 7 years of my education were worthless. And I started to be angry at the fact that I was a pharmacist. And just really what changed my mind was a question that someone asked me in a mastermind group. And they said, how could you create a business that you would love? And that changed everything for me because I started to think of what the possibilities were. And here we are.
So when they asked you that, how could you create a business that you love? Did your mind just immediately snap and go, oh, this whole healthcare stuff, this pharmacy stuff, this compounds and nutrients, and I don't know what I'm talking about here, as you can tell, right?
No, but you're great at it.
Yeah, it's just like there's a character called Ash on the Evil Dead movies.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like the alloys and metals and compositions and things with molecular structures, and and he kind of rambles and trails off. That's what I feel like right now. So I have no idea how the pharmacy world works, but you're basically a drug dealer, right? So you know lots of things about drugs, and now you're a virtual drug dealer who can write stories about drugs and the effects on people, and people paid you for that. Like, hey, we want you to write content for our websites, for our blogs, for our stuff that we're trying to put together, and we will pay you money to do that. And that turned it around to be like, yeah, dude, I love that stuff. I love that stuff, and I can do that.
Exactly.
Awesome. What I love about that story, Alex, is I've seen that in myself, and I've seen that with so many other people, which, we kind of hear like, hey, follow your passion, follow your dreams, work on the things that you want to work on. It's like, yeah, but dude, listen, what I like doing is I like watching Star Wars movies. I like taking naps. I like eating tacos, and I don't know how to monetize any one of those three. So please tell me how I can watch Star Wars while eating tacos and then take a nap afterwards and get paid to do that, and I will absolutely create that business. That would be awesome. So what was the thing that told you, like, specifically, okay, now I can be like a ghostwriter for these other companies, and I can be working in the field that's related to the thing that I've been trained to do and the thing that I loved getting into when I was in grad school. I can use that as my side hustle, which is very complementary to my day job.
What was the thing that convinced me?
Yeah, well, not convinced you, but told you that this specific, like the ghostwriting stuff, when your mastermind partner said, hey, Alex, why don't you just work on something that you want to do? How were you able to connect the dots and say ghostwriting in the biotech field, ghostwriting in the pharmaceutical field, that's what I can actually do?
Well, I think in my first year, I was really struggling, right? And whenever you're struggling, you're always thinking of there's got to be something else that I could do. And I always had that idea in the back of my mind that maybe there's something I could do related to pharmacy. Maybe there's something I could figure out. And after digging around and actually just kind of meeting people virtually without really having an agenda, I found out about these writing gigs that were kind of actually all over the place. Some paid pretty well, some were okay. And I ultimately rejected them because I said, no, I don't want to do that. It's not worth my time. It's not something I want to do. I don't think I'll be very good at it. I think it's going to be a waste. And it's funny you asked that, Chad, because now that I think about it, I never thought about this before, but had I just taken action on that first opportunity and gotten over my ego, then I would have been a year ahead of where I am now. Who knows what I probably would have all of my debt completely eliminated rather than having I've got about $44K left of college debt, but it'll be eliminated very soon. But if I would have started back then, who knows? Maybe gone by now. But anyways, great. That was a great question.
Thank you. Hey, for the guys on the Slack channel, we've actually had there's an inside joke here for if you want to get involved in the inside jokes, you got to go to hellotechpros.com/Slack and talk to the folks in the Slack channel there. There was a discussion about in podcasts when people say that's a great question, and some people were honestly kind of trashing some guests on other podcasts, not this podcast, but other podcasts. And I had to step in and say, hang on. Sometimes it's because the host is absolutely amazing, like I just did. Boom! Nailed it. And sometimes it's because of other things. So don't beat up the guest for saying that's a great question. Sometimes it is a great question, or sometimes we just think differently in different circumstances. So, Alex, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. In just a moment, dude, we've been so productive on this conversation that we've kind of burned about 6 minutes past the time that we normally take a break to thank the sponsors, which tells me that this episode is probably going to go over. But if it's okay with you, it's definitely okay with me to spend a little extra time on this because I love the story. I love what we're talking about. So when we come back, let's talk about now that you've refocused, right, during this period of your life a few years ago when you're like, okay, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to work on the hardest thing, I'm going to slay my dragon, I'm going to accept who I am, I'm going to work on the thing that I'm passionate about, I'm going to say yes to clients who want to pay me to do the thing that I didn't want to do, but now I'll do, and boom, everything started changing. Then we'll talk about all the other changes, like the downhill slide that we've had since then. But first, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back with Alex Barker. Alex is a coach for high achievers and mastermind creator for entrepreneurs. He's built 3 businesses in 3 years. He's coached 50 people to build lifestyle businesses. He does a podcast on the 66-day experiment where he totally experiments on his life and in his business and reads a book every day and faces daily rejection. And he does a lot of stuff and is extremely productive today, but he wasn't always. He was a mortal human. And then one day he was bitten by a radioactive spider. We didn't talk about that story, though. We actually talked about the story where he just made a decision that that working nights and sacrificing his family time wasn't the right thing. And so actually the radioactive spider had nothing to do with this story. I just made that up. But just he started waking up early in the morning and started focusing on the one thing that was the hardest for him at that point in time in his life. And that was, doing all the technical things like the WordPress and the blogs and all that stuff. And he denied himself some business opportunities because he didn't think it would pan out. He didn't believe in himself. He didn't believe in his own capability to be productive and turn some opportunities into a business. So he turned them down and said no. When he finally came back to him and said, yeah, sure, I'll work on that, then it was like a trigger. It was like something went off, and now he's got this big client and they're giving him all this work. And then that work grew and grew and grew until Alex was like, you know what, I got to outsource some of the stuff. I literally don't have the hours in the day to do it. I got to hire a team of people. And so, talk about that Leadership Wednesday podcast episode that we need to have. Alex started, he's the manager now, and he's outsourcing some of the articles that he would be writing himself and having other people do the actual work. And now he's having an army of people do it for him. And he's like the service provider, right? So now he's building a business that's very productive and meets his clients' needs. And he controls all the quality and makes sure it's all done appropriately. And now once this thing is in place, now Alex, now you've taken that opportunity to launch 2 other businesses from the first platform that you built. So tell us about maybe in just a few minutes, like that roller coaster ride of, okay, now that you have focused on that one thing, like that domino story that you told earlier, like you push that one little domino over and over and over and over daily with those blog posts and all that kind of stuff, that ghostwriting, until it just like built and it multiplied and those dominoes got bigger and bigger and bigger and everything started falling into place. Then at what point did you say, you know what, now that I have this, I've kind of mastered this area, I'm going to go off and do more stuff?
Well, I think the opportunity just kind of fell in my lap. I guess it depends on what you're gifted at, because what happens when you start having success in some area is people start asking you about it, and they want to know more about what it is that you're doing, how you did it, and how they can do it too. And once it became apparent to other people that I was having some success, and I do talk a little bit about my journey. I've blogged before on my websites, and over the years I've always hosted mastermind groups. And so people, would find out what I have going on, and they would want to talk to me more. And basically that turned into coaching conversations where I would just help people to overcome, whether it's a technical aspect, but more often than not, it was just a mental block. And I would help people work through those and get to where they need to be. For example, I'm helping a guy out right now who is career coaching. He wanted to start off as a career coach. He quit his job, a lot like you, Chad, and he wanted to be doing coaching from the very beginning, and he just wasn't getting anywhere. He hadn't had a single client, and he's been trying to launch this thing over 4 months. And after we started working together, about 5 weeks in, actually, this is now August of 2016, he closed over $6,000 worth of coaching sales. So that's the kind of stuff that I love to do. And that's what that drive that I had for helping people in that form is kind of what led me to create the second business, which is coaching and consulting.
Nice. So your own success is this journey that you've been on, which is not an overnight thing, right? So the guy who goes to Vegas, his first time to Vegas, he pulls the first handle on the first slot machine. I don't even know if they still have handles. Maybe they're all just electronic buttons now. But anyway, he does the thing in Vegas, and he goes to the first machine, and he hits it, and boom, he hits the jackpot. It's like, okay, teach me how to do that. I don't know. I just pushed a button. I went into the first. Oh, well, it's not going to work for you. But you had the struggle. You had the hashtag life is hard. The struggle is real. on your life, and it took you a long time, and you had a lot of personal obstacles that you had to overcome in order to build your own success, in order to find that successful suite of ideas and suite of productivity tips and stuff to make it work for you. And now once other people see that, they're like, dude, Alex, like, you're amazing. You're my hero. How do I be you? And you're like, well, what's going on in your life? What's going on in your work? What are you trying to work on? What are you doing? And here are the things that I've seen in my life and work and business that were failing, and this is what I was stuck on, and it looks like you're stuck here too. Why don't you just, like the other mastermind person asked you, like, why don't you just work on the thing that you love or something?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a little bit of mixture of both.
Okay.
There's definitely a difference between coaching and consulting. A consultant kind of comes to the conversation as, I'm your guru and I'm going to teach you how to do everything.
Okay.
Which is okay, but have you ever tried to learn something about how to change your habits and the way you think, and ultimately when you're by yourself or when someone's telling you how to do something, maybe you don't change at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've read lots of books and read lots of videos on like how to get in shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to get in shape and how to lose weight. And then come to find out, my brother invented this whole method, and he's thinking about patenting it and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, what's it called? And he's like, get your butt off the couch and move more. It's called Move More, Eat Less. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's an amazing system. And he's like, no, seriously, it works. It's called get off your butt, do some work, and quit eating so much. And then he called me some names. And it's like, okay, cool, that works, but I don't actually put that into habit. Right? So I realized that like kinesthetically, that is a good process, but actually doing that process until I started training for marathons, is very, very tough to actually pick up heavy things and want to do that again the next day.
Yeah. They say knowledge is power, but that's totally false. It's implementation of the knowledge that's power. Because you can know everything. Everyone knows how to get skinny. Everyone knows how to do things. But if you don't make a change, then that knowledge is worth nothing, right? So that's what I do when I help people as a coach, is to figure out, okay, how do we actually change? What roadblocks do we have to overcome?
Okay, so the difference between a consultant and a coach, from what I hear you say, is a consultant gives you the knowledge, right? And a coach holds you accountable to follow the actions to implement that knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good way to think about it is, if you're going to hire someone as your guide, well, if you're going to hire someone to help you, and you think about a consultant says, okay, I've made this map for you, and this is the map that I took, and it's led me to these results. Mm-hmm. You're going to do X, Y, and Z. A coach holds up a mirror and says, who do you want to become? And those conversations become really powerful, because in those things, you ultimately determine how you're going to achieve those results. The consultant can't, but the consultant actually takes a lot of responsibility whenever they consult someone, because it's saying, this is my way. You need to do my way. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that was a tangent, wasn't it?
It was a tangent, but it's a good tangent, right? So back on the in the area of productivity, right? When people say, Alex, I want to get more done in my life. Alex, I want to accomplish more. Alex, I want to be more productive. What are some common sticking points that you see that people generally have that maybe we could kind of learn from today?
Ooh, everyone believes that what they are missing in their life is the knowledge to implement something. Everyone believes that, in business, in exercise, in weight, in beauty, in knowledge, in experience. Everyone thinks that if only I knew how to do something, then everything would change. Mm-hmm. It's almost never the case. almost never the case. For example, with the friend that I'm helping now who's doing coaching for careers, he knew all of the stuff. Yeah, I gave him a little bit of advice on how to tweak things, but very little. He knew all of it. What was stopping him was his own inner doubt. He was so afraid of what people may think of him when he approaches them and asks them to a coaching conversation. He was very, very scared of just people judging him and thinking less of him and having those sales conversations. And everything in business is all about what's going on in the mind. And the same thing goes with productivity. Productivity is just a fancy word for self-discipline. And time management is just a fancy word for self-discipline. But no one wants to call it that because no one wants to be disciplined. No one desires to be that kind of disciplined person who gets stuff done. Everyone wants to be loosey-goosey, fancy-free, and not have obligations. But the people who get stuff done, the people who go to outer space, who build great companies, who compete in the Olympics, they're people who are dedicated to their craft and say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get something done. And all of them have mental struggles, the mental barriers, the roadblocks, the fears, the frustrations, the strongholds, the arguments, all the things that stop them. And everyone needs someone to think outside of their own brain to get feedback on how they can improve. I mean, that's why I have a coach. I want someone who's not going to believe the stupid lies that I tell myself, the stupid stories that I tell myself. I want someone who's going to hold me accountable to the bigger vision that I have in my life, hold my feet to the fire and say, Alex, you pansy. She doesn't say that. My coach doesn't say that. But she says, you need to get this done, and you're not. You're not taking action. I want someone who is going to push me to think bigger than where I am now, because that's where I want to go, even if it is hard, even if it is difficult. If being productive and self-discipline is what I got to do, then I have to change. I have to change my mind. If I change my mind, the way I think, then my actions follow, right? It's the old analogy between faith and action, right? Faith and belief. I'm in my office right now, and I'm looking at my chair, and I can believe that the chair could hold me, but if I don't sit in it, then I don't actually believe that it will. But faith is looking at a chair and saying, yeah, that chair will hold me, and then sitting in it. And so, like with productivity, I have faith that taking the action is going to make me more productive, which is going to lead me to achieving my goals. So it starts with the mind, always with the mind, and action will follow. So to answer your question, wow, that was a roundabout. To answer your question, the thing that everyone believes is that they just need to learn how to get a hack or cheat the system. What do I got to do to actually get a client to make some extra money? And I think all I have to do is just do X, Y, and Z. When people don't just think first, maybe I need to change.
Man, Alex, that is so powerful to me. I'm sure it's so powerful to everyone else, but for right now, I'm just going to pretend that nobody else is listening because, seriously, because I have felt that for so long. Like, I can't tell you how many blog articles I've read over the last 10 years about entrepreneurship, about starting a business, about starting blogs, about starting podcasts, about whatever, selling books on Kindle, about building SEO things and long tail keyword research and just all kinds of stuff. I have so much knowledge right now, and I'm not a smart guy, but I have tons and tons of knowledge that I've accumulated over the years because I seriously felt that. Like, there's got to be this one article, right, or one system, one package, one consultant that can teach me this thing that I need to know in order to get my business off the ground, right? In order for me to find productivity and to implement stuff and to find a great idea, right? Somebody will have an awesome blog article that will change my life, revolutionize my life, and make me this is the domain name I need to buy instead of these other 256 that I have, right? And once I have that domain name locked down, then like people will be flocking to that because they will have that problem or they will want that answer, that solution. And then they will be proactively sending me so much money before I even build anything. Then I can go out and hire an army of VAs to do all the work, right? But I'll be the idea guy once I have enough knowledge. If I could just accumulate so much information and think on it, really, really think on it, like take notes every day of all the ideas running around in my head. One of those things that I write down or that I type into my Evernote or whatever, one of those things will spontaneously combust and start generating revenue in and of itself, just because it's such a great idea. And I did that for 15 years. And you know what? I didn't make a single flipping dime, not one dime that I could flip up in the air and call heads or tails with to see if the next idea was going to work or not. So
what was the change in you then?
That's going to be a long podcast, but the change in me, me was really, after 3 layoffs in 12 months, I said, I need to treat this like a full-time job. And people ask me now, like, Chad, how are you doing this? Like, how do you do a 7-day-a-week podcast? It's unbelievable. And I think most of the people who ask me that are people who have something as their full-time activity, even if they have a business, right? Even if they're self-employed, but something else is their full-time thing. And then their podcast is just like a lead generation tool, right? Or their podcast is a hobby. For me, I said, I'm going to build a podcast and it is going to grow in numbers and it is going to grow in like downloads, and it's going to do so through all the amazing guests that I have on the show and so much content that we produce. And the only way that I can have this thing not fail apart in the first 3 weeks, because I just give up on it like I did everything else, is if I treat it like a full-time job and I give everything I have to this one thing. Like you said, like that's my domino. So this podcast is my domino. And if I do it 7 days a week, that means I'm actually a really, really lazy guy. Like, I love watching Star Wars, eating tacos, and taking naps. That's what I want to do, right? But I have to put a lot of effort into building things that are going to take off or that are going to be successful. And I got to put so much work into it that I know all the ins and outs and all the failure points and all the potential failure points and all the successful things, so that then I can systematize it. I can't pronounce that word, but I can build systems around it and I can build automations around it. And then I can decide what to outsource and what to keep myself. And so that's what I do with this. That's why I have the 7-day-a-week podcast, for some of the reasons that I've said on other shows, but a lot to do with my own personal productivity. I know that if I'm going to do something, I need to be all in and just completely commit to it. And if I'm working on 3 or 4 different things, then I'm treating 3 or 4 different things as a hobby and none of them as a business. And so that's me.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. There's a lot to take away from it.
Well, yeah.
Taking action and saying I've had enough. I think that's important to note.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called get off your butt, pick up heavy things, put them down, and stop eating so much. That's what this podcast is all about, really. I mean, my brother nailed it. You just got to start taking action. You got to do something. You got to put it in place, and you got to do it every day and just commit to it. So that was my takeaway and my final words of wisdom, which I never have on the show. So thank you for getting that out of me. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this tape again to kind of take notes to see did I say anything good or not.
You did a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But Alex, I'll let you have the final words of wisdom for our audience. And then please share with us the best way that we can connect with you about all of these things. And then we'll say goodbye.
Cool. Well, the best way to find out more about what I have going on is probably just go to 66dayexperiment.com. You can check out my podcast, which has 4 seasons. We're in our 4th season right now. And if anything I said resonated with you and you think, man, I'd really like some help with some of the things that he talked about, cool. I would like to talk to you. You can do that by emailing me at alexmichaelbarker@gmail.com. And maybe we can chat sometime, because what I like to do for anyone who's a leader or thinking about entrepreneurship or is an entrepreneur and they want to accomplish something big in their life, their big dream, I'll set aside 2 hours with you and we'll sit, chat, and talk about how to actually make it happen. And we'll get that problem resolved, hopefully, forever. So that's my guarantee.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value your heartfelt story about where you were in life and what it was doing to your family, and how, sometimes this work stuff that we all talk about is cool and it's fun and it's personally rewarding, but at the end of the day, you gotta take care of the people that are around you, supporting you in doing these things. And we have to, meaning I have to, do the same thing. I have to support my little lovely ladies in my household as well. So thank you for all the productivity tips, but again, thank you for reminding me of what's really important, which are the 2 ladies that support me in my podcast endeavors.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Tech Pros, I have nothing more to say. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Have a great night or day or morning or whenever you're listening to this. You've been listening to Alex Barker, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/170. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Productivity Tuesday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I are talking about leadership. Thursday, technology. Friday, people in communication. Saturday, entrepreneurship. Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. And then we do it all over again next Tuesday for productivity. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.